Hi all and welcome to the channel. I'm really glad you're here today because we're going to be talking about the Festool Edge Sanding Guide. Now, I bought this with my own money because like many of you woodworkers, we have a hard time sanding the edges of our finished projects. Now, why is that? Well, naturally, it's very hard for us to know when we're sanding something if it's truly straight or in the right degree. Now, the only way to really fix this is to have a guide to help us. Now, if you don't have a guide, you know what happens. You naturally have a bevel and you get to the end and you're like, oh, this is such a beautiful piece. And then you find out it has a bevel and you're just like, oh my goodness, I have to do so much more sanding. This is a pain in the rear. Well, Festool came out with this. I saw it. I knew I had to have it and I wanted to test it out and share with you what's in the box and also my thoughts on it. Is it worth the $100? Should you buy it? Should you use it? Should you have one in your shop? Well, if you want the answers to those questions, stick around. We're about to get started. All right, so here is the box, and we're going to just go ahead and open it. Notice the two screws right here. Make sure you pull those out. Little attachment. Here's the device. And a little Allen wrench. And your manual. That's it. Okay, so here is my Festool sander. The first thing I need to do is take off my little guard right here. So take that off. The next thing that they want you to do is they want you to put your side attachment on. And so this, we'll move this out of the way. This is going to go on just like this. And then this piece right here is going to go on like this. So you have to turn it sideways and it clicks in just like that. And you have to kind of hold this sideways because what you have to do is you have to put these little bolts. One goes in right here. And then the other one goes in here. And we're going to use this little wrench to tighten it in. And it should go in pretty easily. Make sure it threads correctly. You can see here that you want to make sure it's lined up. So I had to adjust it there for a second. And then you kind of just push it in right like that. And then this one just screws on in. Pretty easy so far. Go a little more. All right, there you go. So you can see you want to put the screw here and you want to put another one right here. Okay? Okay, so one other thing that I want to show you is this is your guide and it's a pad. This adjusts. So you can see here I can push it in and it has a little indexing mark where it locks itself in. And that's really nice. But if you want to remove this, they give you another one that you can attach different things to, pads or grips or whatnot. To release this, there's a little latch right here that you have to push down and just it slides right off. And then you can take this one and you just simply slide it on. You have to get it like set right here. You hear it click and you push it in and then this one's installed. So the indexing, you can see right here, you can set it, go out, and it marks it where it is. Now, if you want to release this, this is a little tab thing right here. It's underneath. You push that, and it slides right off. And then you want to turn this little knob. That releases it. Okay, so that, you can see right here that this is slid down to 90 degrees. And if you want to, you need to tighten it. Then you can just basically adjust it. You can set it at, this is 90. Well, here. Let me get a little more close up here. You can see the indexing marks. One thing that it doesn't do is automatically index. You're going to have to be real careful and line that little notch up perfectly with the line. I wish it did index. That's something that is, I don't know, a little annoying because you can go past 90 degrees right here. You can see So you just gotta take this, look at it, and just get it right in. And then once you've got it locked, you simply just twist this in like that, and your angle is set. And then when you do, it's all ready to go. Let's go test this. All right, so our first test is we're gonna be sanding a 3/4 inch thick board. I have it right here in my hand. And we're gonna be sanding this little edge right here. Now, I'm gonna hand sand this with the orbital sander to create a little bevel on it. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is I wanna be able to feel that this is not in alignment. And then I wanna take the guide, set it at 90 degrees, and then see if I can clean it up and see how well it does. All right, well, let's move on to this test. Yep, that definitely has a bevel. Now, I'm gonna come down here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, this has little indication marks. We're gonna turn this little lever right here, and we're gonna set it at 90 degrees. There we go. And we're just gonna cinch that in. And then that is set, and then we're gonna sand this and see if I can take that little bevel out that I just made. All right, let's check this out. Okay, so I can feel that. Feels great. It's that was very easy to use. I felt like I had a lot of control over the sander and sanding this edge, and it did as advertised. So 90-degree test, passed. Let's move on to the next test. All right, so for this next test, we're gonna be sanding a 45-degree angle. Now, I cut this on my table saw, and it's rough, you know, it's just like a normal table saw cut, and I wanna smooth this out and see if this guide can actually hold a 45-degree sanding angle and how easy it is to do. So let's go ahead and lay this on my table and start sanding it. Let's turn the camera up here for a second. Okay, so I did notice a little bit of a difference in sanding a 45-degree angle. It's a little bit harder to keep in place. I think there's some physics involved or some techniques that I still need to learn, but it definitely did it. You can see right here how clean that is. Let me see if I can get this in focus here so you can look at it. It put a nice clean edge. Definitely way easier to use the guide than doing it by hand. However, I think it's just a little bit harder to do. I'll share my final thoughts on it at the end of the video, but let's move on to the next test. Okay, so one of the other tests that I'd like to do is on something much smaller. I'm going to be using this little block of wood here to see how well it can sand the edge. Now, the reason why I want to do this on something smaller is sometimes you use your orbital sander and you just need to get a nice clean edge, but the object is really so small you can't put it on a table. So can you use the guide that Festool has made for smaller objects? Well, we're going to test it out and we'll see how it performs. That looks pretty good. A little more challenging than I thought, but yeah, you could use it for that if you want. All right, so for my last test, I want to sand this piece of plywood where I've cut an edge on it, and I'm going to use this guide to see how well it cleans up a plywood's edge, holding it flush. All right, let's test it out. I have finished sanding the edge of this piece of plywood and it is super smooth. It did a phenomenal job. That's really important because now this is really nice and clean and smooth where you could add edge banding to any plywood project. So if you want to sand your edges to then apply edge banding, definitely use this guide. It will make that edge banding go on perfectly. All right, well, now that I've showed you all the different tests that I've done, let's go back over to my desk and talk about if this is something that you should buy, the pros and cons, the things that I liked about it and didn't. All right, so we just ran this attachment through several different situations. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with how it handled sanding 90 degrees. The 45-degree angles were a lot more challenging for me. I don't think it really performed as well in that, but that could just be because of my ability to really control what I was sanding. I know I had my hand on the board and I was holding this, but when you're sanding a degree, there's some physics that are involved. See, your motor's spinning and it's going in an angle and you're pushing straight. So what happens is this wants to fishtail a little bit. And that just could have been because I'm not used to it yet and there's some physics that I just need to account for. However, sanding those degrees with this guide was way better than doing it by hand. So I would recommend using this over doing it by hand. Now, one thing that I didn't like about this, and it just baffles me, is adjusting this to the right degree. It's really challenging and takes more time than I expected. The reason being is, I'm not that old, but it's really hard to see this. And I wear glasses and contacts, but to get it right, you have to really look at this very carefully. I wish they would have put a little bit of green color in these little notches to help you get it aligned a lot easier. It would have been such a sweet touch on this. I know, Festool, you're capable of doing those types of details. I would have loved to see it in that. It would have just helped with the alignment so much better because, right now you can't really trust that it's perfect. You would have to get another tool to measure it to make sure that your angle is right because there's no indexing that happens. I know that's nitpicky, but that's my biggest complaint. I think the build quality is phenomenal. It's what I would expect from Festool. So the big question really comes down to, should you spend the $100 on this accessory or this edge guide for your sander? And my question or my answer to that is, well, if you are occasionally sanding edges, maybe once a month or every couple months, I wouldn't spend the money on it. I would save your money, buy something else, invest that into some other tool that you would use more often. Now, if you are sanding edges a lot and you're doing that once a week, maybe a couple times a week, or you have a really expensive table that you're building for a client and you need it to be perfect, then by all means buy this. It's worth the $100. It will pay for itself in the time you will save in sanding those edges. Well, I hope that helped answer all your questions that you had about this edge sander attachment. And if I didn't answer any questions, you have more questions, please post them in the comments below. Guys, I read everything and I'm here to help you out. Well, if you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that thumbs up button for me, destroy it, like it. It helps others find this video as well and lets me know you like these types of reviews. All right, guys, till next time, I'll see you later.